Hey, shalom, shalom. Hayawam tawab la atam za akikam yawan ma rachagadol Charlotte, which is good day. This is your brother Yawan from the GMS camp in Charlotte. Nachamatam kaya. Hamalakwath hashamayim kwara. Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Kahalaim la abanawa Yahweh bahasham Yahweh shai bahasham rocha kwadash. Wamashana la zakwaniam na wamalakim shor rocha gadol, which is all praises to our Father Yahweh, which means he exists bahasham in the name Yahweh shai. He delivers, and double honor to those in the apostles of Great Millstone. So I just want to go into this. Esau essentially goes into how there are like three methods of learning, in his, his science and whatever type of, doctrines he go into. You see, which I just want to go into that because ultimately, the Lord gave us the operations of the Lord. All right. And essentially that, that's Esau essentially trying to take away from how we ultimately learn. And essentially, when we think about things in a Hebraic perspective, the mindset and the knowledge that we had, in the ancient world, and the knowledge that we'll get back, in totality in the kingdom, you see, ultimately the ways of learning that we had in the ancient world were better. How Esau learns limits, the natural way of learning. I just want to detail that, just get some precepts and, Lord's will. This is a beautiful edification through the Spirit. All right. So I'm going to start with this. It says 3 types of learning and how to use them to improve your career. It says there are 3 primary types of learning styles as defined by teacher Neil Fleming: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Most people learn best through one or two of these methods, but there are ways to use all 3 learning styles to your advantage, which, the Lord gave us, he gave us operations. All right, I'm going to go into those real fast. All right, this is Bon Sirach, chapter 17 and verse 5, and it says, they received the use of 5 operations of the Lord, which this is what Esau calls, he calls them the senses, because you got your seeing, you got your taste, you got your smell, you got your touch, and you got your sight, hearing, smelling, touch, and there's one more. It's slipping my mind right now, but continuing on, it says they received the use of 5 operations of the Lord, and in the 6th place he imparted them understanding, and in the 7th speech, and interpreter of the cogitations thereof. You see, so the Lord gave us operations, in which there are 7 operations. All right, because the Lord gave us understanding. All right, going into the righteous lineage. All right, then you got speech, which speech is essentially it acts as a interpreter of what you're thinking. That's what the cogitations goes into. How you think. How you think comes out in your speech. So I just want to get some edification on these because, again, it's more than 3 ways of learning. You see, and ultimately all these work together into how you perceive the world around you, because how the Lord created us. Again, he created us to be essentially we observe and we take in our environment in order to output it. And we perceive our environment through those operations. So again, you got the sight, you got your smelling, your taste, you got touch, and then you got you got your hearing, sight, smell, taste, touch, and your hearing. That was the one. Esau calls those the senses, but they go back to the operations of the Lord. You see, so I'm gonna go back to this, and then I'm gonna get some precepts. But back to this, it says there are 3 primary types of learning styles. It says visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, which those are those are on point, but you still have the other 2, or you still have the other ones that are not listed right here. But we just got the operations of the Lord. You see, so I want to go into how we actually learn in a righteous sense. All right, so this is let me get this. It says the 5 methods of learning Hebraically. It says there are several Hebrew words which can be translated as learning into English. When we read the English text, we will often come across words learn, teach, instruct, discipline, and chastise. But as we will see, these words do not give us an accurate meaning of these words from a Hebraic perspective, and some of the meaning is lost in the translation. All right, going back to this right here, I'm going to get this. This is Bon Sirach chapter 1 and verse 1. I'm going to skip straight to the point. It says, wherefore, let me entreat you to read with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. All right, so ultimately things can be lost in translation. All right, that's why it says wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret, because some words you can't translate from a language to the next, you see. All right, words like the Lord's name, you can't translate that you can't translate the Lord's name, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, into another language. All right, because that's the Lord's name. It can't change. All right, just like some words in the scriptures, can't be accurately translated. All right, words like alap. All right, that goes into multiple different things. All right, and that's what we're going to see. Just reading into this article. But it says the Hebrew language is centered around the life of desert dwellers who lived their lives as shepherds and farmers. In order to really understand the Hebrew words for learning, we will be looking at them as they did 4,000 years ago. Oxen were very important to desert dwellers as a source of power, much as the tractor is to the modern farmer. The Hebrew word for an ox, alap, a closely related word to alap, meaning to yoke together, which those are the same word. When two oxen were placed together in a yoke for plowing, an older, more experienced ox is placed alongside a younger, inexperienced ox. The younger would then learn by association an example from the older. Hence, the word alap can also mean to associate with or to learn by example, because when you go into the chart, all right, alap, it goes into a yoke as well. And it says a man yoked to another will learn by example from the other. A child will also learn from his parents only by observing the actions of the parent. This can either be in a positive or in a negative way. All right, and they got some precepts right here, you see, because if you're yoked together with someone, that's why scripture say, can two walk together except they be agreed? I'm going to get that real fast. This is Amos chapter 3 and verse 3. It says, can two walk together except they be agreed? You see, so ultimately those that you're in agreement with, all right, those are going to be the ones that you labor with, you see. But if you don't agree somewhere, in doctrine or something like that, you see, you can't walk with them, all right? That's why the scriptures tell us, I'm going to get this real fast. This is Mashal Proverbs chapter 22. And we'll get verse 24. And it says, make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. You see, because ultimately that's why that word learn right there goes back to the word we just got, which was alap. All right, because you learn by association, that because one will be yoked together. All right, going back to this word right here. It says right here, it says to associate with or to learn by example. It says a man yoked to another will learn by example from the other. All right. So that's why it says not to go with a furious man. I'm going to read it again. Proverbs 22 and 24. It says, make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. You see, so we have to be cognizant and mindful of the company that we keep, you see, because ultimately those that are around us we're learning through their behaviors, through their patterns. All right. So continuing on, let's go to the word, because another word for learning, all right, is lamad, or another way or teaching or of learning and different styles of learning. All right, another word would be lamad. It says the halamad is the staff of a shepherd used to direct and to control the flock. It says the verb lamad means to direct or to learn by showing the direction. All right, so lamad, when we look at going back to this alap, all right, learning by like on the job training. All right, so examples we got in the world. All right, you might get a job, all right, and they send somebody that's been working there for a little bit. You see, so they serve as an example. All right, you pretty much pick up on what they do. All right, going to the example of the more experienced ox and then the younger ox. All right, so then you also have the example of lamad. All right, by directing. Hey, no, go do this. All right, by directing someone. It says means to direct or learn by showing the direction. All right, and I'm going to get this real fast. This is Dabar Yam, Deuteronomy, chapter 4. All right, and we'll get verse 10. And it says, especially the day that thou stoodest before the Lord thy power in Charab, when the Lord said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. All right, and we'll get that word for lamad. All right, and it's going to say salat. All right, both teach and to learn are both the word lamad. It says that they may learn, all right, to fear. You see, and you learn to fear, all right, by saying, hey, no, do this. All right, the scriptures say, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart, roughly paraphrasing. So it says to go, to teach the rod by being the oriental incentive. So by controlling, that's one way that we learn as well. It says to chastise, to strike, to beat with the rod. You see, so actually telling them, hey, don't do this. You see, and then if they veer off a little bit, you spank them with the rod. Scriptures say, don't spare the rod, roughly paraphrasing. All right, and that's essentially what the Lord does to us. If we're being trained, to we're in kingship training. You see, so if we step off somewhere we don't need to step off to, the Lord, Lord will beat us with that rod. You see, and that serves as a way of learning. All right, because we got the learning from the way of association, alap. You see, we got the example through our elders and apostles. You see, so another way of learning Hebraically, all right, is like, hey, you get controlled by the Lord. If we step off this way, the Lord smack us with that rod. All right, then going back to Deuteronomy 4:10, essentially the way that we learn to fear the Lord. All right, again, if we step off to the right hand or the left, the Lord get us right back online. He goads us. You see, going back to this word right here, which was lamad, and it says to exercise in, and it says to goad. When you goad someone, you essentially, you use the rod. All right, you use that authority. All right. So the next word is going to be yara. And it says the next word we will look into is yara, meaning to throw, such as a rock or an arrow, as in the following passage. 1 Samuel 20:20, we'll get that. And it says, and I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. You see, and we'll come back to that one. But it says, this can also be figurative throwing of the finger, meaning to point, as in the following passage, Exodus 15:24. Actually, I'll get Exodus 24:12, because it's gonna give a backstory to that 1 Samuel 20:20. This is Exodus 24:12. It says, and the Lord said unto Moshe, come up to me in the mount and be there, and I will give these tablets of stone and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. You see, so when you go into this word for teach, all right, it's going to say yara. It says yara, which essentially goes into to direct, to teach, instruct, and it says to point out. You see, because we're a visual people. Again, the Lord gave us the operations, you see, so we take in what Jake is very impressionable. I read a book one time, and it pretty much went into how, Jake has better senses than, the heathen, you see. So we're a visual, we're a very perceiving and impressionable people, you see. So essentially, by pointing something out, that's why we got the 12 tribes chart, you see, because we're a visual people, we're a perceiving people. And what I mean by perceiving is we take in the world around us. You see, that's why it's very imperative that we stay amongst men of understanding. You see, so this word for teach goes into to point out. Going back up into this verse right, he says, I will give thee tablets of stone and a law. You see, because the tablets of stone, you can say, hey, you could point it out. You could show Jake, hey, this is what it says we're supposed to do. You can point it out. That's another way of learning. All right. So going back to this, because when you point out something, essentially you're pointing at something. All right. So when we tie this into 1 Samuel 20:20, all right, he said he was going to shoot arrows. Verse 20, it says, and I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof as though I shot at a mark. You see, because going back to this, in order to point something out, pointing out a way, you got to be pointing to a target. All right. Because going down right here says it is the responsibility of the parent to point the way to the children. This means all aspects of life, pointing the way to the Most High, a career or a moral lifestyle, etc. When a rock is shot from a sling, it is shot at a target. Likewise, the direction which a parent points out to his child must be a target. This target is always obedience to the Most High. You see, so that's the relation that it has to an arrow. You see, because if you point an arrow at a target, it's the same as you pointing your finger at something else, you know, when you think about it Hebraically. All right. So moving on, Shanan. All right. So it says the next word which we will look at, which is usually translated as to learn or to teach, is Shanan. This word literally means to make pointed or to sharpen, such as a knife or a sword. All right. It says, I'm going to get this. This is Dabar Yam, Deuteronomy chapter 32. And we'll get verse 41. All right. And it reads, it says, if I whet my glittering sword and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me. All right. So that's going into, that's pretty much going into the nukes. All right. Or this song is this song is pretty much going into the nukes. All right, this is the song of Moses. All right, but continuing on, it says, if I whet my glittering sword and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Because the scriptures say the Lord has a great sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea, roughly paraphrasing. And the scripture also say in the same chapter, I'm actually get it real fast. This is Yeshaya, Isaiah chapter 34. And verse 5, it says, my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. It says, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and the blood of lambs and goats with the fat of kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. All right, pretty much when this whole land is destroyed with them ICBMs. All right, so going back to Dabar Yam, Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 41, and it says wet. All right, which when you wet something, you're sharpening it. All right, and that word for wet is going to be shanan, which means to sharpen. All right, so when you break this word down, shanan, all right, shah is the teeth. With your teeth, you press, but then your teeth are also sharp. That's how we're able to eat. But then the na, that's a seed. With a seed, all right, your seed line continues your lineage. Just like the next na is going to be a seed as well because it continues. You see, so with this word, you have sha, na. All right, that last A drops off. You see, so to sharpen, sha, all right, to sharpen, you have to continue and continue. You see, because if I take a blade, all right, I got to continue to strike it to make it sharp. You see, in those different movies, you know, you'll see them, and instead of sharpening it like that, you know, they have like a, you know, over time, they started to be innovative to where they would take a blade and then have like a foot pedal and it'd be a rock, you know, continually, it'd be like a circular rock and they would continually strike a sword and it'd sharpen the sword. You see, but also in the ancient world, they take a rock and they actually continually strike it to ultimately get that blade sharpen how they wanted to do it. You see, so if you take that mindset and you put it into the mindset of the mind, all right, we'll get this as well because this word goes into sharpen as well. But this is Mashal Yah, Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17. And it says, iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. You see, so ultimately going into, you know, how, you know, we sharpen each other through the spirit. All right. Because chad means to be sharp. All right. And how you actually sharpen is by continuously striking something. All right. So that's why it's shanan, you see, because mentally you stay sharp. All right. You know, by continually doing something. And it's going to say it right here. And it says, a dual knife will not cut. Hence, we take our knife and sharpen it on a stone so that it will be ready to perform the work it must do properly. It says the sharpening process is careful and sometimes time consuming. All right. Just like when we go into the breakdowns, you see, it's that's our sharpening our minds, staying sharp, being on point. If you took it in reference to fighting or something like that, you do the same movements over and over and over and over, the same things, all right, so that you can be meticulous and you can be able to do your job properly. All right. That process is necessary. You see. So let's get this. Because this word goes into Shanan. All right, this is Dabar Yam, Deuteronomy chapter 6, and we'll get verse 6, and it says, "And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up." And, oh yeah, that was pretty much the point. But that word right there is teach, all right, because we're to teach these things, to our sons and our sons. You see, it's supposed to be passed down. All right, that word right there for teach is shanan. And when you teach something, you go over and over and over and over and over and over again. You see, so it can be fresh in your mind so that you can remain sharp. All right, let's get this. It says, shanan, to sharpen a sword, metaphorically, to assail anyone with sharp sayings. It says sharpen of a weapon. Your mind can be a weapon, when used properly. It says to inculcate anything on anyone, which pretty much means to teach. You can have a sharp mind. You can be quick with it. And again, that word was shanan. All right, and the next one, the last one, is going to be yasar. It says literally means to turn the head or to turn to another direction. It says this word can be translated as chastise or discipline, which more specifically that word will go into, let me see, more specifically that word will go into, the hands have our heads. That word will go into the hands of the Lord take our heads and place them in another direction. That word goes into correction, chastise, or discipline. All right, and we'll get this. This is Mashal, Proverbs chapter 29, and we'll get verse 17, and it says, "Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yeah, he shall give delight unto thy soul." All right, and that word for correct is yasar. It says to discipline, to admonish, you see. So, again, going into the example that I had mentioned earlier, it's similar to that word for to direct or to goad. You see, because first you learn by association, you see an example, then you get instruction, which you can be at different points, in these different methods, you see. But generally, or just going over these five, all right, we learn by association, all right, we see someone do it, all right, then we're instructed to do it ourselves, all right, and if we kind of steer the wrong way, we're controlled, all right, then directing, hey, you understand how to do this, hey, this is what you do. Then sharpening, all right. By sharpening, all right, we're continuously having it ingrained in our minds so that we ultimately understand it. You see, when you take it in reference to fighting, you see, you continually again do things over and over and over and over and over. All right, so that's second nature. All right, then we learn about chastisement. You see, when we have a good control or a good understanding of what we're doing, you see, then the Lord the Lord essentially sends things to chastise us, which enacts that discipline. All right, well, you kind of going over here, so the Lord can put something in our path to make us go this way. Get back on the straight and narrow. You see, and that's it. And the Lord does it in various different ways. You see, but again, just want to go over the five different methods, that we see, in the scriptures. All right, so Adonai Tazaza Banaya Pa, Lord's will, that was a beautiful edification through the Spirit. Wa Adonai Tazah Atam Yash Yawam Tawab, a Lord's will. You have a good day. Wa Shalom Lakam, which is peace unto you all. Shalom.